TYT Sports, Rick Strom here with Robert Ecksel, editor-in-chief of boxing.com. Robert, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Rick?
I'm doing great. Kelly Pavlik had a fight with Lushan Butte scheduled for November. However, prior to, he had a tune-up ink with Showtime to fight southpaw Darryl Cunningham. But mysteriously this week, Pavlik withdrew from the fight, leaving many of us to scratch our heads and simply say why. Now, his reason, as he told Youngstown TV stations, the fight is off and the Butte fight is not going to happen. I'm not going to fight a southpaw for peanuts. Pavlik would have made $50,000 in the Cunningham fight, $1.35 million for the Butte fight. Isn't this a little unacceptable, Robert?
It is unacceptable, especially on the surface. But when you mention that he's going to get $50,000 for this fight, I mean, that's $50,000 before everybody gets their cut. And that includes training expenses, the trainer, the manager, taxes. Once everybody gets a piece of that $50,000, he'd be lucky to walk out with $10,000. And $10,000 is not a lot of money, and it's especially not a lot of money if one is risking one's life.
Okay, now my counterpoint to you is, okay, he'll get paid $50,000, and as you said, it'll all come about to about $10,000 for him. But he was going to make $1.35 million minimum for the Butte fight. What do you have to say to that?
Well, I mean, that sounds great, but we don't really know what was going to happen. Part of the problem with the Pavlik situation is that a week in, he still didn't have a contract. That's an issue. And he also, a week in, is when he finally learned how much he was going to be making for the Cunningham fight. So Pavlik felt as though he was being dicked around, and he didn't like it. And frankly, I can understand why he didn't like it. Again, he's putting himself on the line, risking life and limb for our entertainment. He deserves a little bit of respect, and he wasn't getting it.
Now, you also said the reason for pulling out of the fight was that it's a business decision, quote unquote. What could this mean for Kelly Pavlik fights in the near future with big networks like HBO and Showtime?
Well, it remains to be seen. He is a name. He's not the biggest name in boxing, but he is a name, and certainly now he's in the news. I mean, here we are talking about him at this very moment. So, and all publicity is good publicity. So frankly, I think that if he takes a year, lets his contract expire, jettisons his manager, his team, basically, who left him in the dark, he'll be able to pick up his career again.
This is per Dan Raphael of ESPN.com. Let's pull up the quote right now. A source close to Pavlik said that Pavlik was unhappy with the offer because Interbox originally had tried to sign former titleist Mikael Kessler to fight Butte in November with a substantially bigger offer, which Kessler's team rejected. Interbox, of course, is Butte's promoter. They had offered Pavlik 40% of the revenue from the fight, but Pavlik does not seem to me like a huge figure in the sport anymore and a star fighter, yet it seems as though he's demanding that kind of money. It seems like his skills have deteriorated a little bit to ask for that big of a purse, don't you think?
Well, his skills have deteriorated a little bit. He's had some tough fights. He's lost some tough fights. But he's still a young man. He's 29 years old. And frankly, everybody's skills have deteriorated, even some writers that I know. So we have to take everything, we don't have to take everything at face value. Everything we read is not necessarily true. People express their opinions, and their opinions are their opinions. It doesn't make them fact.
You know, Robert, I rewatched the Pavlik-Jermaine Taylor fight, and you could feel the sense of pride in Pavlik from the folks of Youngstown, Ohio. He had something that most fighters don't have, and that's heart, and something those of Youngstown can easily relate to. Is it salt in the wound to these people because the fight was supposed to take place in his hometown of Youngstown, Ohio?
It is salt in the wound, but the people of Youngstown have had a lot of salt rubbed in a lot of wounds over the years. It's part of the Rust Belt. It's a really seriously depressed area. Life in Youngstown is hard. I'm sure you haven't been there recently, and if I have in my way, I'm not going to go there if I can help it. But the truth of the matter is, I mean, he is a Youngstown hero. He is a working-class hero. He is somebody who sort of worked his way up on his own, based on his own skill, his guts, I mean, his courage, and he makes the people of Youngstown proud when not much else does.
Now, I hate to ask you this, and it's almost sad to say because I am a big Kelly Pavlik fan, but between this controversy of pulling out 5 days before a fight, 2 interventions by his family, going to rehab only to stay 20 of the 30 days, is Kelly Pavlik done for?
I don't think so. I think Kelly Pavlik still has more fights in him, and I think Kelly Pavlik may even have a title in him. He may have had personal problems. Many people do. I mean, he's not exclusively Kelly Pavlik, whether it's substance abuse problems or otherwise. But I listened in on a telephone conference call with Pavlik about a week and a half, 2 weeks before the fight was to take place. And I was listening really carefully because I knew he had these sort of personal issues. And I was listening carefully to hear if he was a drunk or not, to hear how he expressed himself, to hear how his mind was working. And frankly, his mind was working like a Swiss clock. He was clear, he was articulate, and I kept saying to myself, he's not a drunk. He's not a drunk. This is a guy who has his act together. So I do think he has a future, and it may not be tomorrow, but I think he's going to pick it up again.
Now, we were talking before the show, and you were telling me a little bit about Top Rank. How much of this decision that Kelly made, how much of it falls on the arms and hands of Top Rank Promotions?
Well, if you were to ask Pavlik, he would say all of it, and if it's not all of it, it's certainly a large part of it. He believes that they were simply selling him short. Basically, they were using him as an opponent. They were going to spend a little bit of money on him and then basically throw him to the wolves, i.e. Butte. And he wasn't about to stand for it. If he's going to put his life on the line, he wants to get paid for it. And frankly, I don't blame him.
The burning question, Robert Ecksel, can Kelly Pavlik get back on top?
On top, I'm not sure, but since he's on the bottom now, there's nowhere for Kelly Pavlik to go but up.
Damn good point. Robert Ecksel, editor-in-chief of Boxing.com, thank you very much for the time. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I'll talk to you soon.